The Easter weekend is over. It's always a big time in the EFL. The two games on the Friday and the Monday can be telling for your season. It can make or break whether you're at the bottom or towards the top. For Sunderland, it was Oxford United at home and Peterborough United away. Two really difficult games. Sides who, you would look at on paper and go, maybe they could be a potential drop points. We beat Oxford 3-1, but it was a hard game. And then we went to Peterborough on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday, and got a 1-1 draw, which on the face of it is a good result because Peterborough, they are at home. There was a game in which they probably looked at and thought that they couldn't afford to get beat. I think we looked at it and said we couldn't afford to get beat, but I think the draw is better for us than it is them. It keeps promotion in our hands, and it keeps Peterborough kind of, and it's a decent point for them because they probably looked at and thought, well, Sunderland's probably the hardest game we have to the end of the season, so to not get beat is a good result. But it was a tense, very tense afternoon. It was the first time I'd had a drink all year. That's how tense it was. I felt like I needed that little bit just to take the edge off the 90 minutes. But to the game itself, I thought in the first half we were good. We had a good game plan, I felt. I'll talk about team selection and the talking points. There's maybe a few things that changed in that, but I thought overall our game plan was pretty sound in the first half. We controlled the ball, controlled possession. Didn't think Peterborough were able to really have a sustained period of holding the ball. Our high press was working very well, and Peterborough weren't really doing a high press themselves. The only concerning thing for me is there wasn't really much happening in terms of creativity. It looked like we had a lot of the ball, but not really, much in terms of creating chances. And I think the main reason why that was is we didn't utilise the wings enough. I thought Jordan Jones looked menacing every time we got the ball. Peterborough were frightened. Aiden McGeady is always a player you want to see on the ball, but I didn't think we got the ball to them enough, and I think that was probably due to the team selection of having two bigger strikers as well. We generally look to find them two over going to the wings, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Peterborough got the lead though in the second half, probably through their best spell of the game. We struggled to cope with Dembele when he came on, though we did get sort of to grips with him after he'd been on there for sort of 10-15 minutes. But it was a well-worked goal from them, possibly a foul in the build-up. McFadzean was brought down sort of kind of held down on the edge of the area. At the time I thought it was a foul. I've watched it back. I think McFadzean is probably a little bit too weak for me, so I don't think it's worth bitching and moaning about. I know we've had clubs at the minute, come to Sunderland and bitch and moan a bit. Oxford are a bit bitchy and moany. I say a lot. It's pointless bitching and moaning about that because McFadzean was just weak for me. He let himself get thrown to the ground. He should have stood up for himself a little bit more. So I don't really have any gripes with Peterborough's goal. I've seen that free kick given, but I don't think it was enough to justify the foul. And also, if McFadzean was left on his feet, would he have stopped the goal happening? He probably wouldn't have. So I'm not going to complain about that one too much. The substitution of Dembele for Peterborough, is what changed the game in their favour. In the first half, they really struggled to create, anything. The only time they really broke through was when they got past McFadzean, who I thought was a liability all game, but I think he's a liability pretty much every game anyway. But Darren Ferguson was more proactive with the changes, and he brought on Dembele, and we didn't make any changes until the 70th minute. I felt that it was obvious when the second half started that the game, the momentum of the game had shifted, and I think we probably should have made a change at about 50-55 minutes. I think I would have probably brought off Ross Stewart and brought on an extra midfielder at that point, just to give us a little bit more control of the game. And I think that, fair play to Lee Johnson for making 4 substitutions in the 71st minute and changing the game for us at that point. But I think earlier in the game I probably would have done something, but it's all hearsay at this point. It's me saying that we should have made a substitution before we conceded. However, the 4 substitutions did change the game for us. The match went back in our favour at that point. We managed to get ourselves an equaliser through Aiden McGeady. When the free kick was given on the edge of the area, it came through Josh Scowen's tenacity. We got the ball in a high area, we got fouled, and McGeady has a free kick. And in that area, we are good with free kicks. Whether it's McGeady or Chris Maguire, you always fancy us to score. And as soon as that one was lined up, I was like, all he has to do here is get it up and over the wall, slightly in the corner, and he scored. And that's what he did. I think the Peterborough keeper's probably going to be disappointed, but to be honest, I didn't think he was very good. I thought he was flappy on corners, and I don't think we targeted him enough. I didn't think he looked comfortable at all during the whole game. There was a few corners which we did kind of hit on him that he didn't deal with, and he was complaining with a little bit of an injury. I wish we'd sort of attack that more, and every time we got a corner, try and put it on his head, put it right on his head, and try and cause some carnage. With the wind the way it was yesterday, that would have made sense. So I think that's a missed opportunity there that we didn't get. We didn't really get enough shots at the keeper through the 90 minutes. I can't recall us really testing him with all that many efforts, and that is probably the most disappointing thing from the game against Peterborough. We did try and push though after we made it 1-1. There was a point in added time where Lee Johnson's throwing the ball, running to get the ball when it went out of play, and then throwing it out of play just to try and get it back in there. We did hit the post as well. It was like a own goal, really just unlucky from Peterborough's perspective, but it ended up hitting the post and going out. And we did try, we did try and get the winner there, which fair play, because the draw's not a bad result for us. A draw's probably, we went into this thinking a draw's a must. Obviously a win would be beautiful. So to get a draw and still want to push for that win, I thought that was, it's clear to see for our characteristics and what we are as a club that we want to win games, and we're not just going to settle for points even if it is against sides at the top. So talking points from the game, one thing I wanted to start with, we talked about not utilising the wings enough at the start, and I think that is a talking point in itself. To me, the way we lined up yesterday in terms of, just the team selection in itself, having Ross Stewart and Charlie White, I think works if we're playing against a more, rough and tumble side in League One. When we went to Accrington Stanley, we really benefit from having the two of them up there. I don't think that was the right decision against Peterborough, and the reason for that is simply that it leads to constantly hitting the ball high, because you're going, we can win the ball in the advanced area because we've got two big men up there, but I think Peterborough centre-backs did a pretty good job of nullifying that threat. But I think their full-backs really struggled with our wingers, and we didn't utilise that enough throughout the game. Every time Jordan Jones got the ball, Peterborough panicked, and we didn't get the ball to him enough. I think the most guilty party probably for this was Grant Ledbetter, who I felt was very wasteful with the ball. He kept picking the ball up in midfield, and Ledbetter is very good at just being neat and tidy and getting yourself out of little, tricky situations when there's men surrounding you on the high press. But he consistently tries these high balls, whether it's trying to get somebody in behind or trying to play somebody in, or even if it's just a long ball. And it's frustrating to watch because I don't think we have to do it. And, Ledbetter continued yesterday for me, just kept hitting them over the top balls. Now, whether or not that's because he didn't feel like he had other options, maybe the blame needs to go to the other players. But I thought that was a little bit frustrating in terms of the team selection itself. I probably wouldn't have started Ross Stewart. I know that, he is a player that we've invested in and we probably want to see playing more. But I kind of think yesterday it would have made more sense to either play Lyndon Gooch, and have that sort of three behind Charlie White, or alternatively put another man in midfield and Josh Scowen. I think that maybe would have worked better for us yesterday and gave us more control, particularly in the second half as well. I think we really would have benefited from, having that extra man in the middle when we sort of lost control of the game after half time. Denver Hume came back finally. We have a competent left back at this level coming in there, and I think on Saturday he probably should start against Charlton. My reasoning for that is you can rest and play McFadzean on the Tuesday against Wigan, which should be in theory the easier game. I mean, there's never any easy games, but I think you're playing against a side right at the bottom of the league there in Wigan, who've got, I think, the worst home record in the league. It makes sense to play McFadzean for that one and put Denver Hume in for the harder game because Denver Hume's a better player. Maybe Lee Johnson looks at it the other way and goes, we'll give Denver Hume the easier game and we'll play McFadzean, who's got more sort of match fitness. He's continually played. Maybe play him for that one. But I think we desperately need to see Denver Hume back in the 11. McFadzean is consistently, for me, the reason why we're going to concede goals. I don't think the goal we conceded yesterday was necessarily his fault, but I do think that there's an element of, was he too weak? Maybe it would have been a foul had he fought back a little bit more, kind of just look like he let the guy throw him to the ground. But Denver Hume coming back in will be massive for us. We really, I can't stress enough how much I think we miss him in our team. Luke O'Nien continues to be competent. He continues to show that he's so important to us and just how versatile he is. He made an incredible block where he basically just threw his head at the ball, and that's such sort of commitment to the cause to see him do that. And I was again impressed with him. I thought he had a perfectly good game against Peterborough, who's the highest scorers in the league. He kept Johnson Clark-Harris really, really nullified. He didn't really have a sniff all game, so fair play to that for that. But we do need Bailey right back, and I think the main reason why is just for the balance of the team. Getting Luke O'Nien maybe playing at right back, and then moving Max Power into midfield. There's so many knock-on effects from having Bailey right back in the team. So we do really need to see some centre-backs come back in, because I do think if something's going to cost us from now until the end of the season in terms of our promotion, it could well be that our defence isn't, and it's for so long just been people playing out of position. One small note as well, Charlie White is now on a 4-game goal drought. This isn't me calling for him to be dropped. I just think it's worth, we've got to stick with him through the sticky spell, and I think Lee Johnson will stick with him. He's been so good for us this season, and I'm confident he'll break that over the next couple of games against Charlton and Wigan. Running itself, well, Hull obviously won on Monday, which means that they are now 5 points clear of Sunderland, but Sunderland have 2 games in hand. We're also 2 points back of Peterborough with 1 game in hand. So we are in the best position in terms of possible points to be picked up from now at the end of the season. We can pick up the most points. We will go as champions if we win every game from now until the end of the season. Now look, just briefly looked at sort of the running that everyone has from now until the end of the season and picking out the hard games. Hull have got Fleetwood. They obviously play Sunderland, Lincoln and Charlton, which I don't think is necessarily a terrible sort of 4 games from 6, but that they are hard games. Fleetwood's always tricky. Sunderland, of course, is going to be tricky for them. Lincoln's a derby game for them, and Charlton are a side who are very difficult to beat, particularly when you're going there on the road to the Valley. Peterborough also have Charlton. They've got to play Doncaster twice, and they've got to play Lincoln. So they're 4 sides who are all battling for the playoffs, which isn't going to be easy. Particularly playing Doncaster twice. Can they beat Doncaster twice within a week towards the end of the season? That'd be interesting to see. In our fixtures, our hardest games, we've got Blackpool twice and Hull. Blackpool, I'm worried about them once. And of course, Hull away isn't going to be easy either. But, looking at the run-ins there, I think we all have kind of equally as hard run-ins. And I think it's like you head down to the wire. That's the simple matter of it. The league table, it's obvious now it's going to be 3 teams. I don't think that Portsmouth, they're 7 points back of us, even though they've won 4 in a row. I don't think Portsmouth are going to be breaking through. People were worried about Blackpool, and they are still in good form, but they needed to rely on the form at the top dipping in it, and it hasn't really. They're 8 points back of Sunderland with a game in hand on us as well. 2 games in hand on Peterborough, so maybe they've got a slight chance, but you probably think that it's too late in the day for them. So there we have it. The Easter period is over. We got Charlton on Saturday, Wigan on Tuesday. Nothing less than 6 points will do. In 6 points, I would venture to say that 6 points from them 2 games would probably put us in the top 2. I don't know if one of them is a game in hand. Potentially one of them, the Tuesday game against Wigan, could well be a game in hand on Hull at least. Just trying to think of, because Hull obviously will have Tuesdays off because they've only got 6 games left and we've obviously got 8. But yeah, that's that. Hopefully next video on Saturday against Charlton, the tails will turn in our favour. We've still been consistent in picking up points. We've only lost 5 games this season, which is half of what Hull and Peterborough have both lost 10. Goal difference, we conceded the least amount of goals in the league as well. So there's a lot of stats, sort of just on the face of it, stats that are in our favour. And fingers crossed, we can keep this going for the last 8 games. So I think if we maintain what we've done since Lee Johnson's came in, we will get promoted. But I think one thing as well needs to be said. Even if we don't go up automatically, you've got to say well done to Lee Johnson for getting us within this position right now. Because when he took over, I think we were 10th in the league. And we lost that first game against Wigan, if you remember, that disastrous home game. And since then, he's transformed us into being a strong, a good side at the back, but also a decent enough side going forward. So fair play to him for that. And thanks for watching today's video. Please subscribe if you've enjoyed it. And yeah, big week ahead.